Good morning and welcome to the morning meditation for career happiness. Today I'm going to lead a short 10-minute practice, and then because it's Sunday, I'll do a short talk on why we want to use meditation and mindfulness in our job search and career transitions. And then I'm available to answer any questions that you have that are about mindfulness and your meditation practice. So really wonderful to see you here. So let's get started. So to begin, find yourself a comfortable seated position. That can be in a chair or it can be on the floor. If it's on a chair, you can either choose to sit towards the back of the chair with your back being supported. Just make sure that your feet can be flat. If you're in a chair that doesn't allow you to do both, either put a cushion underneath your feet so that your feet can be flat, or move yourself to the front of the chair so that you can maintain an upright spine and have your feet flat on the ground. Another option is to sit on the floor. Ideally, you want to have like a cushion or a pillow under you that just lifts your hips slightly so that your hips are higher than your knees, which makes sitting more comfortable. So once you've found a spot, then I invite you to lengthen up your spine. Relax the muscles around your forehead, in your forehead. Relax the muscles around your eyes. Relax your jaw. Relax your shoulders. And we're going to begin by just noting and labeling what we can see. So I invite you now to look around the room without moving your head, just moving your eyes, and just see what in the space you're in is interesting to look at. And when you find something that is interesting to look at, that draws your attention, note it, which means just put your awareness on it and note that it has caught your attention. And then label it see. And then let your attention continue to be interested in what you can see in the space around you. And when you see an object that's interesting, pay attention to it and label it see. We're going to do this for about a minute. So looking around, when your attention gets drawn to something that it likes or it doesn't like, whatever is interesting, we're just going to stop and label it see. When you're labeling, you can say the word out loud, or you can say it inside your head to yourself. And let's begin. If your attention gets pulled away by thoughts or feelings, just remind yourself right now you're just paying attention to what you can see in the room, noting it and labeling it. Beautiful. Next, we're going to try the same exercise, but paying attention to our internal screen, our mental screen. So I invite you to close your eyes Now, everyone's mental screen is a little bit different. So, usually with your closed eyes, it's in front or behind your eyes. And this is a place where we'll play out scenarios and often see images. So, for the next minute, we're going to pay attention to if we see anything on our mental screen, and it might be kind of blurry. And when we do, we're going to label it see. If there's nothing on your mental screen, so it's just blank, you can label that rest. It just means there's no images or no um, mental screen activity right now. So we're going to begin for 1 minute paying attention to if an image shows up on our mental screen, labeling it see. And if it's blank, we'll just label it rest. And you say the labels out loud if you want, or to yourself in your head. And begin. If you get distracted by sounds or thoughts or sensations, just remind yourself that right now your work is to pay attention to what's on the mental screen and label it. Gorgeous. So, keeping your eyes closed, we're now going to invite our attention to just be aware of sounds in the space that we're in. So, that might be sounds in the room, or if your window is open, then sounds that are coming from outside. When you hear a sound, note it, which means just be aware and you concentrate on it. And then you're going to label it here. If there are no sounds in the physical space you're in, note that and label it rest. And begin. You might be, your attention might be drawn to one sound that you stay with the whole time, or just the silence. Or you might hear something like a bird, and then you hear the heat coming on. So each time you hear a new sound, note it and label it here. If you hear two sounds at the same time, just choose one, doesn't matter which, and label it here. If you get distracted by physical sensations or things that you see or some thoughts, just bring your attention back to just focusing on sounds that you hear in the space around you. You're doing great. Beautiful. Now we're going to bring our attention a little bit inward. So just paying attention to the sounds that we hear in our talk space, our inner talk space. Usually we'll hear things in the space between our ears. So now we want to pay attention to any time we hear ourselves saying something to ourselves, any thoughts that we hear. And when thoughts come up, we're going to note that we hear something and we're going to label it here. If you notice that there's no activity in your talk space, that's fine. You're simply going to label that rest. Don't get caught up in the content of what you hear. You're simply noting that you're hearing something and staying with it for as long as it's there and waiting for either more silence or to hear more inner talk. And let's begin focusing on anything that we hear in our internal talk space. Not judging what you hear, you're just noting and labeling it here. Beautiful work. Now we're going to bring our attention to our physical body. So paying attention to where you feel any interesting or they might be painful sensations in your physical body. So let your attention focus on your body. When it's drawn to a particular part, you're going to note it and label it feel. If it's a enjoyable sensation, it's feel. If it's a painful or itchy sensation, it's still feel. You may choose, or your attention may be drawn to one spot the whole time, say a pain in your hip, or it might feel the pain in the hip and then gets a tingling in your toes, and then it goes back to the hip. That all works. So it could be one part or multiple parts. We're just paying attention to any physical sensations and labeling them feel. If you don't feel any physical sensations, that means your body is in a restful state. So you're just going to note and label it rest and begin. If your attention gets pulled to thoughts or sights or imaginings, just to invite your attention back to, oh, yeah, we're paying attention to physical sensations and labeling them feel if we feel something, or rest if we just feel no sensations at all. Beautiful work. And one last focus. We're going to focus on emotions. And so bringing our attention inside of us to pay attention to any emotions that you may be feeling right now. When you notice that you're feeling an emotion, it could be a enjoyable emotion or it might be a painful emotion. Note it and label it feel. Stay with it, get interested in it. How much space does it take up? Where might you feel it in your body? Stay with it for as long as it's interesting, and then let your emotion or let your attention go to any other emotions you're feeling. If you're having emotional peace right now, then simply notice and enjoy that and label it rest. And let's begin. If you feel an emotion, you're just noting it, almost like you're pointing at it and going, "Ah, there's an emotion." But you don't need to get wrapped up or try and solve or judge anything that you're feeling emotionally. Just note and label that you're having some emotions. If this is new to you and your emotions are really strong and it becomes uncomfortable, you can always go back to just hearing or seeing if it's causing a really uncomfortable sensation for you. You're doing great. Beautiful. Now slowly open your eyes. Ah, gorgeous work. So that is the see, hear, feel technique. Why I think it's really great for job seekers and people going through career transitions do that technique is it builds three incredible skills. It builds concentration, which is the ability to focus on what you want to focus on. So every time that you do this technique, you are choosing to either focus on things that you can see, hear, or feel. So it's building that skill. And then every time that your mind wanders, and it's going to wander, and wandering is just fine, every time it wanders and you catch it and you're like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to be, and you go back to whatever you were supposed to focus on. Every time you do that, you are building your concentration. So actually getting distracted builds your concentration skills. It doesn't mean you're a bad meditator or you can't meditate. You are building those muscles. And over time, you find yourself, less likely to get distracted. The second skill that it builds is sensory clarity. So many people that I've worked with, let me get water. So many people I've worked with in job search are not aware of their emotions, and they're not aware of even their bodies. And so what happens is that they have certain mannerisms that make people question their credibility. They're not even aware of how they're holding themselves, right? So they're going to networking meetings or showing up on camera, crossed off with their heads down, not even aware of their body, or not even aware of how their body is feeling emotions or where it's holding stress. So being aware of that for yourself is great. And also it helps you tune into that intuition. So you learn kind of how to be more present, but you also can start to know and know when you're close to a breaking point. So if you're in a job where you don't love your boss and you tend to have a negative reaction when something comes through, instead of naturally having that negative reaction, which doesn't feel good for you and isn't great for your career, you could probably pay attention to, oh, it's starting to happen, and start using some techniques that help you to be less reactive. The third skill that it builds that is so necessary, especially for job seekers and the career confused, is equanimity. And equanimity is the beautiful skill of being just here in the moment and just fine and maybe even happy just in the moment. So often when people are in job search, they spend a lot of time ruminating about what they did in the past, right? And what someone said to them, or why they took some dumb job, or why they lost a job, or having to work with someone, like a lot of and often negative. So ruminating on the past, or if they love their job, being like, I'm never going to find anything else like that, and it's just not productive. It's not good for your not good for your being. Or they spend all the time planning. So they're like, I'm going to be happy when I get the job. I'm going to be happy when I get this title. I'm going to be. And so putting their happiness on this faraway goal, which means that the whole time that they're job searching, which means where they're meeting people and connecting and talking about themselves, they are deeply unhappy. And when you're deeply unhappy moving through this, that just adds to your suffering. And so meditation and mindfulness can help you be okay with what is, right? Not saying that it's perfect, but we know all things change. So how can we ease ourselves that suffering of constantly regretting and constantly planning and just letting your mind rest? So those are the three skills that this develops. And you can see here, feel this technique, 5 or 10 minutes a day is fantastic to build those skills. That's what it scientifically proves to do, doing this technique. You can choose to sit and then be aware of, you don't have to limit it to just see or just hear or just feel. You can just maybe hear a sound and label it hear, and then see a sight and label it see, and then notice your body is resting and label it rest. So you can do it like that, or you can narrow it down to a experience each time. So I can now take some of your questions. I am going to pull up LinkedIn. So I'm streaming this on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And anyone who catches this on LinkedIn Live, I'm going to do these every morning, but do it more directly to YouTube because they save them a little bit better. Yeah, so I'm just going to pop in and see if there's any questions that you have about meditating or a mindfulness practice or using this within your job search. So yeah, thanks for the follow. Hey, Olu, nice to see you from Nigeria. That's fantastic. Great to see you. Do you have any questions about meditation, mindfulness, and how it relates to job search or careers? would love to answer any of your questions that you may have. And it's brave to come up so early. There's so many options. Because there's so many options about, yeah, there's so many options to meditate and sit and all the offers. I already sat this morning for a half hour with this other um, group in Brooklyn, and it was incredible. So, oh, great. Thank you, Crystal. I'm glad to see you here. Yeah, I think the reason that I lead these is that so often people are told, and job seekers and people in our career are told, "Hey, you should meditate. Oh, you should have a mindfulness practice," and and people don't tell them how to do it. And the first resource that a lot of people find is that breath meditation, and that breath meditation is like, oh, it works for some people, but a lot of people find that meditating just on the breath is very hard for a beginner. So this technique just allows you to experience the things that are happening, the objects that are around you as an object of focus. So yeah, cool. Thanks for coming, Crystal. Nice to see you. No questions, just happy. Beautiful, Jennifer. That's great. Beautiful. Yeah, so if there's no questions for me, thank you for sitting with me this morning. I hope you have a great Sunday. And then I'll be sitting every morning. I'm just going to be doing them on YouTube instead because it just saves and classifies them better than doing them on LinkedIn. I will, if you like me for the job search stuff, I do a live show on Thursday nights on LinkedIn and YouTube, and that one's all about job search and career stories. So if you want to come join live, you can even get on camera with me and talk there. So, but thank you for joining me. Have a great week, and I will see you around. Have a mindful day.